Hello all of you. Now let's come to section 13. So in section 12 we have seen that if service provider and the service receiver are both in India, then what is the place of supply? Okay. Now in section 13 what we'll see is that if the service provider or the recipient, any one of them or maybe both of them, are outside India. Means if service provider is outside India and receiver is in India, or the receiver is outside India and the provider is in India, or maybe both are outside India, then what will happen? Let's see. So it says place of supply where location of supplier or location of recipient is outside India. Now subsection 1 says the provisions of this section shall apply to determine the place of supply of services where the location of supplier or the location of recipient of service is outside India. Very good. Now again, subsection 2 is the general clause, and then the special clauses are there. And as the rule goes, special will override general. So if your service is covered by subsection 3 to subsection 13, then you will have to apply those particular provisions and find out the place of supply. And if your service is not covered by any of these specific clauses, then it will be covered by the general clause, which is 2. So let's see, let's start with the general. What the general says: the place of supply of service except the service specified in subsection 3 to 13 shall be location of the recipient of services. Location of recipient is to be taken. Location of recipient. So if the service provider is in New York and the service receiver is in Mumbai, then place of supply will become Mumbai. Recipient. Okay. And if the service provider is of Nagpur, Farooq Haq, and the service receiver is in New York, the World Bank headquarters in New York, Farooq Haq audits the World Bank. But don't take it as audit because it may be covered by specific clauses. I'll tell you later. Any service, just general service. Okay, right now let's talk about general service, which is not covered by 3 to 13. So whatever service it may be, if I provide that service sitting in Nagpur to World Bank in New York, then it will be outside India. The POS will be deemed to be outside India because recipient, the World Bank, is outside India. Simple. Okay, so it will be recipient. In all cases, whether it is import or it is export, it will be recipient. So imported services, POS will be in India, and export service, POS will be outside India. Okay, simple as that. Very good. But the proviso says, provided that where the location of the recipient of service is not available in the ordinary course of business, if the location of service recipient is not available, that is, if you have taken the service and your address is not available with the provider, you have just taken something off the record and the service has come but your address is not known, then the place of supply shall be the location of the supplier of service. So if we talk about export, it is very important that you have the address, the location of the recipient. So if you are sitting here in India and supplying service to a foreigner, it's important that you have his address with you, the person to whom you are giving the service. If you don't have his address, if you don't have his location, then the law says that POS will be the supplier, means you, means in India, means it will become chargeable to GST. Then it will not be called as export. So if you want to save your tax in case of export, kindly have the location of the recipient on record, okay, before giving any service. Good. So that is clear, the first point. Very good. Now let's come down to the specific ones. Now the interesting part will begin. 3. The place of supply of the following services shall be location where services are actually performed. So these are also called as performance based services, okay, where they are actually performed. So forget where the supplier belongs to, and forget where the recipient lives or belongs to. We will see the place where the service was actually performed. Okay, so what are these services? Let's see. In that, the first one, A. Services supplied in respect of goods which are required to be made physically available by the recipient of service to the supplier of service or to a person acting on behalf of the supplier of service in order to provide the service. Goods which are required to be made physically available. That is the first point. Goods which are required to be made physically available. So just write down besides that, the best example of this is repairs. Repairs and maintenance. Such a simple example. Repairs and maintenance. Of what? Of physical goods. So for example, car repairs. If my car is broken down or something has happened, what I do? I give the car to the person to repair it, to maintain it. Servicing. So unless I give the car, the other person will not be able to give the servicing or the repairs, right? So, but here the point is that one is India, one is outside India. So let's take an example. Right. So I have imported a Rolls-Royce car from US. So I am Indian. I am staying the recipient, the receiver of goods, you can say. I am the owner of goods now. But in order to repair this car, it's not possible in India. Because in India, the mechanics, they know how to repair Maruti and Tata and all these Mahindra and Mahindra cars. But not Rolls-Royce. They are not experts. So I'll have to book the repair process with Rolls-Royce company of US. They are going to send some people here, or they will ask the car to be exported to them so that they can repair and re-export to India. Either or. One of the two things can happen. Either they will send some personnel to India to repair the car, or I will have to export the car back to them to US. They will repair it and then it will come back to India. Two things can happen. Okay, so it will come under clause A. Goods, the car, is to be made physically available to the recipient, by the recipient to the supplier. Supplier of service will be Rolls-Royce, who will give me the repair and maintenance service. Recipient is Farooq Haq. Now see, place where it is actually performed. This is the POS, place where it is actually performed. So therefore I have taken two examples. Now just imagine, if Rolls-Royce sends two guys to India, they'll come to my home, they'll come by flight, they'll come to my home, repair my car and go back. So where is the service actually given? In India. Even though the provider is situated outside India, but the service is given in India. Therefore the POS will be in India. Point of supply, the place of supply will be India. And on the other hand, if they say that no, send the car to us, we cannot send the engineers, send the car. So I'll book the car in the export cargo, then the car will go to US, they will perform the repair process in US, in Las Vegas, and then the repaired car will then again be sent back to me in India. In that case, where the repair is being done? In US, means outside India. So if the service is given, the actually performed outside India, the POS will be outside India. So understood first point? Very good. But there are two provisos also. Let's see. First proviso says that when such services are provided from a remote location by way of electronic means, the place of supply shall be the location where the goods are situated at the time of the supply of service. Now this is possible in case of computers and all, which have some kind of electronic equipments attached to it. So what happens is that the even Rolls-Royce cars or the big the costly cars They have this system, complete electronic system, and the engineers need not come to India. If there is some electronic problem which can be repaired through internet, then what happens is that they will connect, the engineers sitting in US will connect to this car through GPS or whatever system they have in India, and they will repair the car in India itself. So some electronic problem has come. If it is not a physical problem, it's an electronic problem, then they can access the car through the electronic means, through the internet, and they can repair the electronic system while sitting in US. So the service provider is still sitting in US, and he can repair my computer in India or my car in India through electronic means. So in that case, the POS will be the place where the goods are at the time when they are repaired, at the time when the service is given. So place of goods, the location of goods, underline location of goods, will be seen if it is given through electronic means. So the service provider may be sitting in US, the engineers may be sitting in US. And the second proviso says that provided further that nothing contained in this clause shall apply in a case of service supplied in respect of goods, which are temporarily imported into India for repairs and are re-exported after repairs without being put to any other use in India than that which is required for such repairs. Now what this means? Now this is an interesting one. Let me explain it to you with an example. That here is a company in India, Mahindra & Mahindra, M&M in short. Now they make cars in India, like for example the Scorpio. Okay, and they have exported these Scorpios to UK. A lot of Scorpios are exported to UK, and they have the selling point there. They sell the cars. Okay, cars are being sold in UK. Now one of the car has some problem, and they send first of all some engineers there to repair the car, but that is not possible there. So the car has to be brought back to the factory, and then certain systems have to be changed. So what happens that these cars, suppose there were 2000 cars which were exported, and out of that 200 have got some problem, factory fitting problem. So they have to be brought back to India, recalibrated, and then sent back. So these 200 cars will come down to India. They'll come down to India, then they'll be repaired, or some part which is problematic will be changed, and after that, without being put to use for any other purpose except for the test drive, they'll be put to use for test drive, because after you repair you need to test it to know that the repair is rightly done. So that much is fine, testing is fine, but no other use should be there. So after they are repaired, they will be re-exported. Now if we apply the normal rule, clause 3, then what happens that POS will be the place where the services are actually performed. So the repair process is being performed in India. If the repair process is done in India, then POS will be India. And if POS is in India, then it will become chargeable to GST. Right? It will become chargeable to GST. If we charge GST here, then it will become costlier for the foreigners who are supplying these goods back to India. So that will be a detrimental thing to export of goods itself. Because today we are exporting goods and then we are selling the goods there. And if the foreigners find that later on if the repair is to be done in India and we will have to pay GST, then we will not buy these cars. We may not buy these cars. So in order to promote the export market, the government has exempted these repairs from GST. So how they have exempted it? They have not said that this is exempt. They have not put it in an exemption notification, but they have said that if these goods are coming to India for repairs, just for repairs and nothing else, and then they will be re-exported, so they are temporarily coming to India. not permanently coming to India, temporarily coming to India for repairs and then to be re-exported without being put to use for any other purpose, then this repair will be exempt. How? So they have said that nothing in this clause shall apply. So nothing in this clause shall apply means that this will not be the POS. This will not be the point of supply. I mean to say the place of supply. Means clause 3 will not apply. So then the general rule clause 2 will apply. And clause 2 says recipient. So recipient, the owner of car is in UK. So place of supply will become outside India and therefore it will not be taxable in India. Right? So this is a major exemption which is given, indirect way of giving exemption, major exemption given to all our exported goods, the complete export industry you can say. That if the goods exported come back to India just for repairs, temporarily, just for repairs, and then they are again re-exported, then it will not be taxed in India. The repair process will not be taxed to GST in India. Understood? So this is a kind of exemption you can say. Then coming to point number B. So this was the first point. Second point. So the point number clause 3 continues that you have to see POS as the place where the services are actually performed. Actual performance. Okay, the next one. Services supplied to an individual. So see, A and B are similar, but A is for goods, B is for individuals. That's the difference. A is for goods, B is for individuals. Okay. Services supplied to an individual represented either as the recipient of service or as a person acting on behalf of the recipient, which require the physical presence of the recipient or the person acting on his behalf with the supplier for the supply of service. So in clause A it was goods. Goods had to be made available. Here it is the person who has to be made available in order for the service provider to give his service. And the simplest example and the best example I can give here, there are so many examples, but the best will be a beauty parlor. Right? So all the girls would be very much interested now. Even the boys these days go to those beauty salons, spas, and so on and so forth. So beauty parlor, then spa, then coaching center also. Let's talk about us. Face-to-face coaching center, F2F coaching center. That's the tuition class. So unless the person comes and sits in my class, I will not be able to teach him. Right? In a face-to-face class, you have to come and sit in my class. In a spa, you have to go and sit in the spa. In a beauty parlor, you have to go and then he will apply all this stuff on your face. You must, what all things they are called as, I don't even know. Mask. I know one thing, face mask. I have never gone to any beauty parlor or spa or clinic. It can also include that clinic. Which one? The hair weaving clinic. We have seen hair weaving is taxable. And cosmetic surgery, plastic surgery, they are also taxable. So unless you come to the doctor's place, can he perform the plastic surgery? No. Can he perform the cosmetic surgery? No. Can he weave the hair? If you're sitting there, can you send your head here for weaving? No. You have to come here. So understood all these examples, and there can be many more. So you have to be there. So in all these cases, when the person is involved, what we'll see? Place where the service is actually performed. Place where the service is actually performed. Now just take examples. Very simple examples. You are from New York. Okay? You are Angelina Jolie from New York. Or US, if we can say now. We don't know where she stays. But she likes an Indian hairstylist. She might have worked with that hairstylist somewhere before, and she likes that hairstylist. Likes in the sense that likes his work. Now, two things can happen. Either that hairstylist of India, Habib Khan, can go to New York, do the hairstyle, and come back. She'll pay for it, and the return flight also. Or she comes down to India, does the hairstyling, gets it done, I mean to say, and goes back. So if our supplier Habib Khan goes to New York, does the hairstyle, comes back, where is the service actually performed? New York. So POS will be outside India. No tax. But if Angelina Jolie comes down to India, gets this service in India, in Mumbai, and then she flies back, service is rendered in India, in Mumbai, hence it will become taxable. Understood? So that's the point, very simple point. So that was clause 3, performance based services. Performance in relation to goods, performance in relation to service. Performance for goods, performance for service. Okay? Understood? Very good. Then let's go to next one, clause number 4. The place of supply of services supplied directly in relation to immovable property, including services relating to supplied in this regard by experts and estate agents. So this also we had seen in section 12 also. It is in section 13 also. Now here they have given it in very plain and simple words. Experts and estate agents. There they had mentioned all those interior decorator and architects and this and that and construction. So here they have given experts. It will include all of them again. So experts can include architect, interior decorator, and then construction person and all those people, and including estate agents who buy and sell the property. Okay, so all of them are again covered here. And also accommodation in a hotel, in guest house, club, campsite, by whatever name called. So that is also covered. And including grant of rights to use immovable property, means letting out, is also covered. So first is all the experts in relation to immovable property, then accommodation, then right to use, means commercial letting out, then services for carrying out coordination of construction work. Construction work is also covered, including that of architects, interior decorators, shall be the place where the immovable property is located or intended to be located. Similar lines. Wherever the commercial property is to be, immovable property is to be located, is already located or intended to be located. So architect makes a design before the construction begins. So for him we can say intended to be located. So if the building is coming up in Bombay, a big commercial complex is being made in Bombay. By whom? Farooq Haq. And I have taken the architect of US. A US architect is going to make designs for this building which is coming up. 200 floors, top class, beautiful amenities, commercial complex. Ha! So the person is in New York, he is going to make the designs. Property is going to be made in Mumbai, so place of supply will be Mumbai. Place of supply will be the place where the property is intended to be located. Now take another example. Farooq Haq is going to make a commercial complex in Dubai. So instead of Mum, it is Dubai. Bai remains the same. Mum becomes Du. So I'm going to construct a property, big commercial complex in Dubai. A building which will be 1.5 times of Burj Al Khalifa, which is now the tallest building. So this will be 1.5 times of that. Okay. Now, who is going to be the architect of this? Not Indian, of course. So I am hiring an architect from Russia. They will design. So where is the property coming up? Where is the property coming up? Dubai. So intended to be located, the building is intended to be located in Dubai. So this architectural service that I am taking, the POS of this same will be in Dubai, means outside India. So no tax in India, no GST. Okay, understood? Similarly, hotels, you can take a lot of examples of hotels. So for the hotel industry, it's very important. Like all the foreign hotels. Now we are going for a tour to Singapore. A tour to Singapore. And I'm going to stay there in one of the world's top class hotels. So the hotel provider, the service provider is also outside India. And the hotel is also located in Singapore. So POS will be Singapore. Place of supply will be Singapore because the hotel is situated in Singapore. So not taxable in India, no GST. So when you book all the hotels, foreign hotels, and make payment for that, there will be no GST. Unless you book through a travel agent, remember my point, a tour operator or travel agent. Because tour operator or travel agent will be taxed because they are situated in India. So if you go to a travel agent to book, you are liable to pay GST. There will be a 5% GST. Because travel agent's service is in India, so that becomes taxable. So to be frank with you, never book foreign tours through travel agents in India. Book it directly. If you book foreign hotels directly, you are not liable to pay GST. You will save on GST. But for that you must know which hotel is good and which is not. So if you are anyways booking 5-star properties, then they are assumed to be good, so you can go ahead and book. So go on their website, on the internet, pay them directly. If you have international credit card, you can pay them directly. So if you directly book the foreign hotel and pay them, the service is outside India, the place of service is outside India, hence not taxable in India. See, hotels, inn, guest houses and so on and so forth. Wherever they are located, very simple, wherever they are located. Similarly, there is an estate agent who is selling Dubai properties. So his service, the estate agent's service, is outside India because the property which he is selling is in Dubai, outside India. And in the reverse case, if there are agents in India who sell properties to NRIs who want to invest in India, okay, there are a lot of NRIs who want to invest their money in India. So our estate agents have got the websites also, magicbrick.com and property.com and so on and so forth. So they are Indian sites. So service provider is in India, but the service recipient is outside India, the NRIs who want to invest. And they invest in properties which are situated in India. So as the property is situated in India, the service of the estate agent will be deemed to be in India, hence liable to GST. So understood, it can be, so you have to think examples from both sides. Property in India, property outside India. Great. So that's a simple one. No exceptions to it. Just a simple plain definition. Then coming to clause 5. Place of supply of services is supplied by way of admission to or organization of cultural, artistic, sporting, scientific, educational, entertainment events, or celebration, conference, fair, exhibition or similar events, and of services ancillary to such admission or organization shall be placed where the event is actually held. Where event is actually held. Finish. So we don't see where the recipient is, whether he is registered or not, and where the supplier is, whether he is registered or not. That all we don't see here. So here is difference between section 12 and section 13. And another point, in section 12, these two points were covered separately. Admission and organization, they were covered separately. Here it is covered in one clause itself. So admission means the tickets. Do you remember? Selling of tickets. The person who is actually organizing the show, who sells tickets to the prospective customers who will come and enjoy the show. And organization means the event manager. event management, one who does the organization part. Who gives service to the organizer? Organizer gives service to the public who will come and attend the program. Okay. So both of them here in this case, both of them will be deemed to be where the event is actually held. Where the event is actually held. So we are not going to see where the recipient is or where the supplier is. We are just going to see where the event is actually held. So for example, Farooq Haq Classes of India is organizing a massive program of 6 international artists in Bangkok. So we are organizing a big show in Bangkok, and for that we have hired an event management company of Bangkok only. Of course, there are locals there, so they can organize it very beautifully. So we have taken up the services of an event manager in Bangkok itself. Okay, so it's a very big show. 30,000 people are going to attend, and 6 international artists are coming. Just imagine a rock show, a rock performance. Now in this case, I'm going to sell the tickets. Now I'm going to sell the tickets to Bangkok people only, because they will come there and attend the show. So the service that I'm giving will be where the event is actually held, means Bangkok. And the service which the event manager gives to me in organizing this complete program will also be in Bangkok. And other service providers who give ancillary services, like somebody will set up the sound system, somebody will set up the lighting system, somebody will give the pandal and shamyana and chairs and tables and this and that, all ancillary services in relation to these events will also be deemed to be in Bangkok. So very simple, where the event is actually held. Finish. Done. Where the event is actually held. Then where any services referred to in subsection 3 or 4 or 5 is supplied at more than one location. Now comes the interesting part. So in 3, 4 and 5 we have seen 3 types of services. 3 performance based services for goods and for person. Then 4 we just saw immovable property, hotels, guest houses, etc, etc, and architects and interior decorators and all. And 5 we have seen admission or organizing of events. Admission or organizing of events, all different types of events and ancillary services. If these are given at more than one location, including a location in the taxable territory, means one of the location is in India, its place of supply shall be taken to be location in the taxable territory. Now there is a old saying about this, that give a finger to a camel and he'll eat your whole hand. He'll take up the whole hand. So even though, or it is also, give a feet to a camel and he'll take, give an inch to a camel and he'll take a whole feet. So this camel is the government of India. So what happens if I organize the show that I was talking about? So if the organizing is purely in Bangkok, then service will be considered as in Bangkok. Okay, so no GST. But if the show is being organized in 5 different places, one of the places in India. So the show is, Shakira is going to come. So Farooq Haq Classes is going to call Shakira. And one show is in Mumbai, one in Bangkok, one in Singapore, one in Tokyo, Japan, and one in Sydney, Australia. 5 shows are being organized. But one of them is in Mumbai also. So if I have given a consolidated contract to Shakira, or a consolidated contract to the event manager who is going to organize this whole program, then full amount will become taxable. Full amount will become taxable, not just for the Indian show, but the complete amount will become taxable in India. That is what it says. Shall be location of taxable territory, including location in the taxable territory. If these services are given at more than one place, including taxable territory, so including how much in taxable territory, they haven't mentioned. The 90% should be in India. They haven't mentioned any percentage. So even if it is 10% of the whole is given in India, the whole service will be deemed to have been given in India. Means the whole amount will become chargeable to tax. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay. And very क्या कहते हैं ना उसको, बहुत नाइंसाफी, very unjustified. But that is the point. So you can take example of all the 3, 4 and 5 services like repairs. So repair of the car was partly done in India and partly outside India. It will be deemed that the whole thing is done in India. If half of the hair were cut in India and half of the hair was cut outside India, Angelina Jolie's hairstylist, the whole thing will be deemed to be in India. Taxable. Or say for example, there is a film being made in Europe and part of the film is also being made in India. So they have appointed Mr. Habib Khan as a hairstylist for this movie. So some shooting was done in India. So Habib Khan did the service in India and part of the film was shot in European countries. So he did part of his service in India and part of the service outside India. What will happen? The complete service is given in India. That will be deemed. Or hotel. I have booked a particular group of hotels for 10 days stay, 4 days stay in India, 6 days stay outside India. And if they have made one single consolidated invoice, then the full service is given in India. It will be deemed as if the whole service is given in India. So even if one finger is in India, it will be deemed that the whole hand is in India. Okay, done. Very good. Now coming to 7. Where the services referred to in 3, 4 and 5 are supplied in more than one state or union territory. Okay, so if in India also it is in more than one state and union territory. The place of supply of such service shall be taken as being in each of the respective states or union territories, and the value of such supply specific to each state or union territory shall be in proportion to the value of services separately collected or determined in terms of contract or agreement entered into in this regard, or in the absence of such contract or agreement on such other basis as may be prescribed. Similar to section 12, we have seen at many places in section 12. Same thing is here, that if it is given in more than one state, then like for example Shakira is coming to Mumbai, then she is also going to Bangalore. There are 2 programs in India, Mumbai and Bangalore, and then she will fly to Thailand and this and that, Tokyo and all. So if 2 places are in India, one in Maharashtra, one in Bangalore, then the value will be divided. The division will take place as per the contract if you have given it separately. If not, then in the manner as may be prescribed. Means government will make the rules. Okay. Then the place of supply of the following services shall be the location of supplier of service. For the following services that we are going to see, there is a whole list, a bunch of services where instead of recipient you have to take supplier. General rule says take recipient, but this specific rule says don't take recipient, you take supplier. Instead of recipient, you take supplier's place as the place of service. So what are these services? Let's see. Services supplied by a banking company, financial institution, or a non-banking financial company to account holders. First point, banking services. NBFCs, financial institutions and other banking institutions. Number 2, intermediary services. Okay, let's take examples also. So in the first point, like a foreigner, like NRIs have a bank account in India, and the bank gives services to the NRIs. Okay, so services given to NRIs. Bank is the service provider which is in India, like Punjab National Bank is in India, and it is giving service to Nirav Modi, who is situated in UK, outside India, after he has run away. Okay, so he is now outside India. So service provider India, service recipient outside India. But where is the bank? India. So services are given at the bank only, na? So you have to take supplier's place. Supplier's place is PNB India, so place of supply will be in India. Then intermediary services. We'll see the definition of this. Okay, then you'll understand intermediary services. Then services consisting of hiring a means of transport, including yachts, but excluding aircrafts and vessels up to a period of 1 month. What did you understand? This is a very interesting one. This one has to be understood in depth. Okay. Services consisting of hiring a means of transport. Let's see. Hiring a means of transport. So what can be the means of transport? It can be so many things. Means of transport can be so many things. Means of transport can be car, bus, or railway itself. If it can be hired, I don't know, but if it can be, then yes. So but we'll exclude it. Then ships and what and many other things, etc. You can write etc. So any kind of thing is being hired. Even aircrafts you can take on hire. Chartered aircrafts are there. Farooq Haq uses a chartered aircraft. Whenever he goes to conduct seminars in different cities, he uses chartered aircrafts. Achha, okay, it was example, no problem. But someday, who knows, it can be truth. Okay, so understood. Now I am telling you all these examples so that you make an example in your mind. You have to imagine. Unless you imagine, you cannot learn anything in these sections. Okay, so imagine yourself. Okay, avoid Farooq Haq. Imagine yourself. You have taken a chartered aircraft. Okay, for yourself. Wow, very good. I am happy for you. Okay, I am not at all jealous. Including yachts. Now see, now focus. Including yachts. So yachts are also included in the means of transport. So we'll add yacht also. YACHTS. Yachts are, what do you mean by yachts? They are the personal boats, recreational boats, which people have. All the big billionaires nowadays have yachts. If you want to see yacht, let me show you some yachts on the internet. Okay, let's see yachts in Mumbai only. Images. Wow. So you can see so many beautiful yachts. Yeah. So these are yachts. They are personal recreational boats. You can hire it, go on a tour, 2 days, 5 days, 6 days. And a lot of people are now have a hobby of yachting. Now you can see some photographs also. Huh? Great. So see in the back we can see the Taj Hotel. So these are yachts. A lot of people have them. Ambanis have them. Farooq Haq has them. Then these are small yachts. So they are big and small. They come in all sizes. Recently I went to New Zealand, so I saw a lot of them, lot of the yachts, and we traveled also in one of them. See, all good people using yachts. Okay, so enough of it. So let's come back. Yachts, understood? Yachts. But excluding aircrafts and vessels. Now see, they have excluded aircrafts and vessels in this point. Excluding aircrafts and vessels. So what you do is, you underline aircrafts and vessels, and below that you write down 13(2) will apply. 13(2) will apply. So I have written ships here, because first it says means of transport, so there can be any means of transport, including yachts, but now they have said excluding aircrafts and vessels, up to a period of 1 month. Up to a period of 1 month means less than or equal to 1 month. Okay, so if it is hired up to a period of 1 month, then you have to take the place of supplier as the place of supply. So place of supplier, the registered place of supplier, will become the place of supply. But if it is given more than 1 month, if it is given for more than 1 month, then we'll apply the normal rule. Normal rule is again 13(2), which is recipient. And for aircrafts and vessels, whether they are let out for less than 1 month or more than 1 month, it will always be considered as the recipient's place. For aircrafts and vessels, whether less than 1 month, whether more than 1 month, it will always be recipient. It will come in general rule, because here it is given excluding aircrafts and vessels. So subsection 8 will not apply. Subsection 2 will apply for aircrafts and vessels. For all other means of transport, which can be car, which can be bus, but not ship, so we'll cross it out, but including yachts. Yachts are included. Up to 1 month, supplier. Beyond 1 month, recipient. Means if it's a long-term lease of more than 1 month, then recipient. If it is a short-term duration, let out 1 month or 3 weeks or 2 weeks or 1 week, 4 days, 6 days, 7 days, then we will take supplier. Okay. So even for car rentals, foreigners come to India, they take car rentals. So we are not going to see their address where the recipient lives. No, it is the supplier's place, because they will take on rent for maybe 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Then we will take supplier. But if somebody takes a car for more than 1 month, then we will apply the normal rule. Okay. So there is a chart also given in the book, but I'll explain it to you also. So what you do is, you can make a small chart here. Means of transport. Aircrafts and vessels. Aircrafts and vessels. And on the other hand, others will include car, bus, and yachts, etc. Anything other than aircraft and vessel, even scooters. In Goa you get those scooters and motorcycles on rent. So in this case, if it is up to 1 month, or it can be more than 1 month. Okay, but in aircraft and vessel, any time. Letting out can be for any time, which can be less than 1 month or more than 1 month. We will always consider as the place of recipient. Always recipient. But in others case, up to 1 month, then it will be supplier's place, and if it is more than 1 month, then recipient's place. Okay. So pause the lecture and take it down. And then a few explanations are given. No need to study account, banking company, financial institution, non-banking financial company. No need to study all these. Useless. Then come down to point number 9. There is subsection 9, or you can also call it as clause 9. The place of supply of services of transportation of goods, other than by way of mail or courier, shall be place of destination of such goods. Destination. So in case of transportation of goods, it is destination. So if the goods are moving from India to outside India, then it will be outside India. If they are brought from outside India to India, then India. Transportation of goods by ship, by aircraft, whatever, will be destination of goods. Okay, destination of goods. Then place of supply in respect of passenger transportation services shall be the place where the passenger embarks on the conveyance for a continuous journey. So this is similar to 12, embarks on the continuous journey. The place where you will get onto the flight, or get onto the ship, or get onto the bus, or get onto the car. Embarks on a continuous journey. Continuous journey definition remains same. You go to a foreign country, then you come back. So going is one continuous journey, coming back is another continuous journey. Then the place of supply of services provided on board, services provided on board a conveyance. This is similar to food, we have seen earlier also. So I am not explaining the actual service because they are similar to section 12 and we have already gone through it. So on board a conveyance, like food, drinks, etc. being served on board the conveyance during the course of passenger transport operation, including services intended to be wholly or substantially consumed while on board, shall be the first scheduled point of departure of that conveyance for the journey. Similar to 12. Absolutely similar to section 12. First scheduled point of departure. Then the place of supply of online information and database access or retrieval services, OIDAR services, shall be location of recipient of services. Recipient. OIDR will be location of recipient. So if the foreign website is providing service to Indians, then it will be deemed to be in India because the recipients are in India. Then there is an explanation, very interesting one. Now I'll tell you why this explanation is there. Now see, we have seen that the person is a recipient in India, then OIDR service will be deemed to be in India. I mean to say the place of supply shall be in India. Well, how will you understand the recipient's place, where he is? Because the service is online. So when the service is online, we don't know where the recipient is. So how to find out the recipient's place in the first place? So for that, this explanation will help us. So government has said in this explanation that if any two of the following non-contradictory conditions are satisfied, if any two out of the following are satisfied, then that person will be deemed to be located in the taxable territory, means in India. See, if you imagine the problem, it's very simple. Now Farooq Haq may stay in India, and if I take OIDR service, then obviously my place is in India. But suppose if I am traveling to Antarctica and sitting on my laptop, I take some service on the internet, will that be considered as recipient's place in India or not? So let's see. Very interesting 6 points, or rather 7 points. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. 7 points are there. Out of these 7, if any 2 are in India, 2 out of 7 are satisfied, then the person will be deemed to be situated in India. The recipient will be deemed to be located in India. See. A. The location of address. So first thing we'll see is the address presented by the recipient of service through internet is in taxable territory. So suppose if the service provider is a foreign website and they ask for my address, and I put my Nagpur address, India address. So that is the first point. That will lead us to a conclusion, but this is first point, we need at least two. So this is one thing which can lead us to understand that the person is in India, the address. This is the actual physical residential address. Number two, the credit card or the debit card or store value card or the charge card or the smart card or any other card by which the recipient of service settles the payment has been issued in the taxable territory. Has been issued in the taxable territory. Now they have mentioned a lot of cards, because world over there are many cards which are used. What we have to see is that whatever card you are using, whichever card you use, you have got a debit card, you have got a smart card and this card and store card and this card and credit card and whatever you are using to make payment for that online service, where is that card issued? Is it issued by some Indian bank or Indian credit card company? That is what we are going to see, the second point. So the credit card or the debit card which you are using. Number three, the billing address of the recipient of service is in taxable territory. So when you buy some services online, you have to enter your billing address where the bill will be sent. So if your billing address is in India, so first is your residential address, this is your billing address. Then D, the internet protocol address, the IP of the device used by the recipient of service is in taxable territory. So assume that you are taking some service and you are not putting your residential address nor your billing address. You say, I don't want the bill. What the heck? Who cares for the bill? I don't want the bill. I don't want the address also. So you may not put your address, you may not put your billing address. But the computer system, the laptop or the mobile phone that you are using, or the iPad, etc., which you are using, will carry an IP address, internet protocol address. So if that internet protocol address is of India, that will be captured. Now this is a very interesting thing. All the websites, the foreign websites, or even our website like FSC, when you enter and you place an order with us, we capture your IP address. This is a fundamental thing. IP addresses are always captured. So if that shows me that you are from India, you are operating from India, then that is one point. Okay. Then the bank of the recipient of service in which the account used for payment is maintained is in taxable territory. Account used for payment. Now this is if you make payment through internet banking. If you are making payment through internet banking, then that account is located in India. Like you may be sitting in US and you are taking some service, but if you are using your Indian bank account to make payment, then it will be deemed that you are located in India. Then the country code of the subscriber identity module card used by the recipient of service is in taxable territory, means the SIM card. If you are operating through mobile, you are taking some service on mobile, and then you receive that OTP and you approve it, and all that stuff is there. So if the SIM card that you are using, like my phone, if I use even in Antarctica, but my SIM card will be an Indian card, na? So that will be captured. The country code of SIM is in India. Or the location of the fixed landline through which the service is received by the recipient is in taxable territory. So either the mobile or the fixed landline, whatever you have used to receive the service, is in India. Okay, so what all things we are going to see? Let's see again. Residential address, number 1. Debit card, credit card, number 2. Billing address, internet protocol or bank through which you make the payment, if it is through internet banking and all. Then your SIM card or your landline. So out of these 7 items, if any 2 are satisfied, if any 2 are in India, then it will be deemed that the location of recipient is in India. Interesting. So what you have to do is to remember these points. So a direct question may come only on this explanation. Very interesting explanation. Okay, so you can take down, you can write besides each point also. First is RS, residential address, then card, then billing address, BS, then IP, internet protocol, then IB, internet banking, then SIM and landline. Landline number is located in India. Now when they say non-contradictory, means there are 2 points which you contradict, SIM or landline. Now either you receive through your mobile phone or you will receive from landline phone. So we'll take any one of these. And for payment they have given 2 things, either card or internet banking. So E and B. So these can be called as contradictory. Now if you make by credit card, we'll take credit card. If you make payment by internet banking, we'll take the details of the bank. Simple. Two out of 7 is the rule. Any 2 conditions satisfied, then it will be taken as in India. The location of recipient shall be deemed to be in India. So take an example, like Farooq goes to USA and I am staying there for say 3 months. I am staying there for 3 months for tourism, and while I am in US I take certain services, OIDR services, from a service provider who is also in US. So the website is also US based website. I am also in US. I take the service, but I make payment through my Indian bank credit card. I have got HDFC credit card. So I make payment through this credit card. So 1 point satisfied. Number 2, I give billing address of India. FHC is address of Nagpur. So if I do 2 things, then that service will be deemed to be in India. The recipient will be deemed to be in India, and therefore the service will be deemed to be in India. So to avoid tax, what you can do is, you should put your billing address of US, you should put your normal address of US. If you use Indian credit card, that's okay. If one is satisfied, that's fine. So you may say, sir, I don't have a foreign credit card. No problem. You use Indian credit card for making payment. But then all the other 6 points should not come in India. Okay. So avoid all the other 6. So your billing address outside India, your residential address you put outside India, then your SIM card outside India. So take a local SIM card of US. While taking the service, don't use your Indian SIM card. Take a local SIM card of US and take service on that SIM card, not the Indian SIM card. So if you are using only one thing out of these 7, that is Indian credit card, that's fine. That's fine. One is okay. But if 2 things happen, then GST will be charged. Okay. Next, the last one. In order to prevent double taxation or non-taxation, now this is not a place of service, it's not a definition of POS, it's what you can say, a solution to problem of double taxation or non-taxation. There are 2 problems, double taxation or non-taxation. What happens is that if the service provider is in USA and the recipient is in India. Now the Indian GST law would say that the POS we will consider as India. So as per the Indian law, the POS will be the place of recipient. But as per the US laws, similar US laws for charging indirect tax in US, GST in US, they may say that we will take the service provider's place as the place of service. So as per the Indian law, POS is in India. As per the USA law, the POS is in USA. So there is one service, but this one service will become taxable in India also, and it is also taxable in US as per their law. They will also charge GST there, and we will also charge GST here. So one service and double taxation. So then this point number 13 applies. So what it does is, it says to prevent double taxation or non-taxation of the supply of a service. Now, how non-taxation applies? See, if you take exactly reverse thing, if it's for the Indian law, it says that okay, take supplier's place as the place of service. Take supplier's place. So as per Indian law, we will say that okay, supplier's place is US, so we will not charge to tax. India will not charge tax. The US law says take recipient's place. So if their law says take recipient's place and recipient place is outside their territory, so they will also not charge tax. So Indian government has not charged tax and US government will also not charge tax. So this can also happen. Double non-taxation. So double has two effects, double taxation or double non-taxation of the supply of a service, or for the uniform application of rules, the government shall have the power, government has the power to notify any description of services or circumstances in which the place of supply shall be the place of effective use and enjoyment of a service. Effective use and enjoyment of a service. So the logic of this clause 13 is that if there is double taxation happening or no taxation, then we may apply this rule, effective use and enjoyment of service. Forget the provider, forget the recipient. Where has that service been used or enjoyed? If the service is used in India, then Indian government will have the right to tax. If it is enjoyed, used and enjoyed in US, then Indian government will say okay, let it be, we will not tax. So it's like that. So government can notify the description of services. So wherever the problems are arising, government will notify those services under this subsection 13. And once your service is notified under subsection 13, then we will not follow the other rules, we will follow the rule of effective use and enjoyment of that service. So it's like that. Simple. Section 13. And then all the points are explained again. The analysis is given. So first is the general provision, that if location of recipient is available, then take a recipient. If not available, then supply. And then the next one is the performance based services. All of you know performance based services for goods and for person. There are 2 points in this. So goods and person. And in goods, there was one exception of temporarily imported into India for repair and maintenance. So there you apply the general rule, that is the recipient. Then if it is given from remote location by electronic means, then where the goods are situated, and if it is not so, then where it is actually provided. And the explanations are given, in which the examples are also given, so this you can remember. Repair, I took example of repair, reconditioning or other work on goods. Then storage and warehousing, courier will come here, because in courier you have to hand over the goods. Unless you hand over the goods, the courier guy cannot take it. So we have to hand over the goods, so courier will come in this clause. Then cargo handling, technical testing, inspection, certification, analysis of goods, dry cleaning. Unless you give the goods, the dirty clothes, he cannot dry clean. And then there can be so many examples, you can think of it. So it's like that. Then the next point is physical presence of the recipient is required. So I gave you a lot of examples there where it is actually provided. And here also certain examples are given, like cosmetic plastic surgery, even I gave that example. Personal security, health and fitness, gym, spas, photography, service to individuals, that is portrait photography. Then internet cafe, classroom teaching, and so on and so forth. and you can just go through those examples. And then that point that if it is provided in two or more states, then we have to apportion it. Then immovable property also, where it is located, the location of immovable property will be seen. And there also the apportionment may come if it is given in more than one state. Then admission and that thing, organizing of the event, admission and organizing of event, where the event is actually held. And here also the division, if it is given in more than one state or union territory. So all these points are simple. Then specified services, banking, intermediary and all will be the supplier. And then banking and all are explained also here. Banking services, no need to study that, it's all simple. Come to the next point, that is intermediary service. This definition we haven't seen, so let's see. Intermediary service means a broker. Now we had seen this definition in the definition chapter, right? Broker, agent, or other person by whatever name called, who arranges or facilitates a provision of service or supply of goods between two or more persons, but does not involve, does not include a person who provides the main service or supplies the goods on his own account. If you are doing it on your own account, then you are not an intermediary. You have to do it on behalf of somebody else, then you are called as an intermediary. Some examples are given there. Travel agents, tour operators, commission agents for goods or service, recovery agents of banks. These are all examples. And in next point is the aircraft and vessels except yachts up to period of 1 month. So here also we had discussed, and an example is given there. This example, aircraft, as we have seen, aircraft and vessels, whether they are given for less than 1 month or more than 1 month, it is always the place of receiver, the recipient's place. But for yachts and other vehicles, it will differ. Up to 1 month, that is less than equal to 1 month, will be supplier's place, and more than 1 month will be recipient's place. Similarly, other vehicles up to 1 month is supplier, and beyond 1 month then recipient's place. Then transportation of goods other than mail and courier will be destination. Then in passenger transport, where the passenger embarks upon the continuous journey. Definition of continuous journey is given, we have seen already in section 12. Then on board a conveyance is the first scheduled point of departure. Then online information and database access and retrieval services, the location of recipient. And OIDR service is again defined here, but we have already seen it before in the definition chapter. And the explanation is again given, which we just saw. And lastly, the double taxation effect. And then questions are given based upon each subsection. So they are all simple questions. 13.2, 13.3, 13.4, 13.5, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All simple questions. Go through it once. Okay. Now in the last lecture, the next one of this chapter, we are going to see the OIDAR service, the special provisions for OIDR service, section 14.